Hi, my name is Gil Robertson, President of the African American Film Critics Association. Today, we are excited to bring to you our conversation with actress DeWanda Wise, star of the hit Universal sequel to Jurassic Park. We're going to kick things off by introducing you to the AAFCA members on the call today, starting with our facilitator, Katia Woods in Philadelphia, Mercedes Williams in Pittsburgh, Harrison Martin in Winston-Salem, Nancy Green in Baltimore, Maryland, KB in Houston, Jill Monroe in Los Angeles, Brandon Collins in Los Angeles, Rhonda Rasha Penrice in Atlanta, and Ray Cornelius also in Atlanta. I'm going to let you guys do what you do so well, and I will see you on the other side.
Blue had a baby. That's impossible.
Hey, girl.
You look just like your mother.
I promise you, I am gonna get her back. Genetic power has now been unleashed. We made a terrible mistake.
The doomsday clock might be about out of time.
If our world's gonna survive, what matters is what we do now.
I could use your expertise.
You coming or what?
A baby raptor? I made a promise we would bring her home.
You made a promise to a dinosaur.
Yeah. What?
Everybody hold on to somebody. That can't be right. What is that?
Biggest carnivore the world has ever seen.
Run!
See? Not so bad.
Hi, Brandon Collins from Media Popcorn Podcast. Your filmography is very unique with amazing turns and She's Gotta Have It and The Weeknd. How did Jurassic World fit into your career goals as an artist? And what was it like having such a physical role as Kayla?
I love it. I've been quite a daredevil, jumping out of airplanes between productions because it'd be a liability if I did it in production. This was a goal, kind of the manifestation of a goal that I set it since I moved to LA in 2012. My trainer who I've been working with since then, Raven Harrington, she's a Maryland girl too. She lives in Cali. And she reminded me very quickly. She was like, you said this. You said you wanted to be an action star, and you're doing it. So a lot of my work has always been stealthily physical. I love a great physical challenge. I think every character exists in a body that makes sense in the context of whatever their life is, whether that exercise comes from, doing physical labor all day. I come from a working class family, that's what it is. Like, they don't exercise, they just work. Or if it's like Nola Darling and she's on her bike, this was definitely in the context of my hopes and dreams, one that was 10 years in the making.
Great job.
Thank you.
KB with Through the Lens of Lady KB, a fantastic job. So can you talk a little bit about the impact of portraying the first Black woman queer character in this franchise and just what it means to you to be able to show this type of on-screen representation again through your career?
The impact remains to be seen. You can never speculate what a character is going to mean. I think what's special about being an actor during this time is, for better or worse, we get instant feedback. you know? And a lot of it can be really unexpected, like truly unexpected. I've had people who told me that they, have watched things while they were going through chemo in the hospital. You just never know when, whatever story it is, whether it's something with a level of kind of social impact and depth, that like Shots Fired or Underground would have, or something that you just think of is like, oh, that's just fun. That's just something fun I'm doing. The number of people who saw someone great and either it's their I need to cry it out watch, or it's their I need to laugh watch, or it's I miss my friends during the pandemic and this just reminds me of the beauty of friendship. So I'm interested and I'm open and I'm curious and I'm honored already to see, how Kayla lands and who she lands with. And as everybody here knows, I will always represent. I will always represent with specificity and a love for the people that I portray as if they're all based on, people we know.
Well, fabulous job. You definitely brought some freshness to the franchise and we love to see it. So thank you.
Hello, Mercedes Williams, owner and chief film critic of Movie Scene Queen. Thank you so much for being here. My question is pretty much simple, and it's kind of a caveat or a back end to what you already said previously, but you said a decade in the making. So I'm wondering, once this film is officially released, what do you hope it brings for you in your personal professional life and as you think about your career moving forward?
I mean, that whole colloquialism, like if your dreams are only include you, they're not large enough. I'm always just trying to expand. Not just, it's really, honestly, it's not even from like the outside in. I'm like that notion of being like, how we're perceived, that's not my business. I'm like, that's not my business. But I know what it does do, and what I have been doing quite deliberately the last several years is just, flipping and reverse it, like remixing. Nola Darling was, you don't see a lot of women who look like me, who are my complexion, get to be free in that way. Like even when they cast Black women, in those roles, they're usually fair, and even in the action space, I used to joke that, 20 years ago, I would be in the tower. They like to put us in the tower on a walkie-talkie. What's going on down there? I call them the women in the tower. We don't actually get to play. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to play. I've seen Hollywood expanding. I think it's all of our responsibility to keep doing this, to not allow this moment to be a moment where we're like, oh, remember that year when Zoe Kravitz and Jessica Williams and Tessa Thompson and DeWanda were in blockbusters? That was a good year. I wanna not be talking about diversity in like as soon as possible. Like as soon as possible, I want it to just, be a reflection of the world that we all actually live in.
Well, you were amazing in the film. You are amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a love fest. Y'all gonna have me crying. Okay, keep going.
Hey, DeWanda, Ray Cornelius here with Upfront, and congratulations, as everyone has said, on an amazing job. Totally loved it. Let's get into the special effects. And how long did it take you to get used to working with maybe something that wasn't clearly there? And then which dinosaur did you enjoy having a scene with the most?
So all my scenes with Leonard the Lystrosaurus were cut, not all of them. It's actually, there's gonna be, hopefully, an extended cut, so you see a little more. They probably couldn't use it anyway because I DeWanda love animals, and Kayla is not nearly as effusive about creatures as I am. So that was just amazing. Like the level of puppetry, animatronics, the technology that actually existed on set was phenomenal. And to that end, the only sequence that I really shot that required more imagination was the driving through Malta sequence, and that's because they had a badass sister from the UK named Naomi Schiff driving for me to make Kayla look as cool as possible, because you know who's not driving a rickety truck? Stick shift, me. Not doing that. Don't know how to do that. Not even going to pretend I know how to do that. So it was a lot of fun because that requires essentially performance matching. you know, making sure that I'm not doing like what I call movie and TV driving that's like this, you know, where I'm actually in it and feeling that adrenaline. And she did that entire sequence is crazy. And if you just watch it, that one sequence, and just think to yourself, like, there was no special effects. Like when she's on one wheel, she was on one wheel. So yeah, that was the probably the most fun sequence too, even though it was the one that, you know, I wasn't actually doing.
Well, congratulations, and know that I'll be first in line to get a Kayla doll. I haven't collected dolls in years, but I'm going to get the Kayla doll for this week.
Thank you.
I did want to Kathy Woods, Cup of Soul Show, the Philadelphia Tribune. Now, normally, you know, in real life, us as Black people, stuff starts roaring and stuff. We start packing and we're like, peace out. Let us know how this is going to work out for you. But in this movie, you're heading right into it with everything. And as Jeff Goldblum's character famously said, we all know how it's going to end. There's going to be some screams and some running, and somebody's going to get eaten. So how did you, like, you talked about your physicality, but how did you prepare for it? Because it is like, we have to believe that you can do these things. You know, a stunt person can do some of the stuff, but some of the stuff has got to be you. So how did you mentally prepare and physically prepare? What type of workouts did you do?
Yeah, I had to, because Chris Pratt, he don't use Chris Romrell. Like our, you know, the purpose of our physical stunt doubles on this project is a traditional stunt double role, which is to say, when you're executing a stunt, they tell you like, okay, if you press up here, it'll make it easier for your body to maneuver over like this. It'll make it smoother. Watch out for this sharp edge. You know, so that's what Georgia's my stunt double, was primarily doing. And, you know, I really had to keep up with Chris Pratt, you know, because he can learn a stunt by watching it once and execute it perfectly every time. That sequence we shot where we're running across the ice and he drops into the water and my character like jumps over the water, that was once. That was one take. You got one chance to get Chris Pratt soaked. You better have that camera in focus. And you know, it's a long-winded way of saying I absolutely had to make sure that I was ready physically. I think most quiet as it's kept, I'm super old school. There's a number of actors. You look at Angela Bassett and you know she takes care of herself. You think about Charlene Woodley and you know that she's an actor from a generation that knew that actors required endurance, stamina, that we have to keep our immunity system boosted, that it has very little to do with, you know, vanity or wanting to look a certain way, and everything to do with being physically and mentally and emotionally, because being physically ready also impacts, you know, how emotionally ready you are. So it was very boring, typical bodybuilder. You know, I was lifting heavy weights for about a year. And then I started doing cardio in earnest about 5 months out so that I wouldn't be embarrassing myself. My first blockbuster.
As everyone said, you did amazing and you look stunning.
Thank you.
Jill Monroe, Access to the Life, YouTube Stiletto Jill. So in discussing Chris Pratt, I read that you said he was your action movie star mentor, so to speak. So what type of things did you learn from him that was different from the outcome that you expected? And what will you take from his sort of direction in that regard onto your next blockbuster action feature? Because we see that for you.
That's fair. Thank you. One, I can't overstate how, you know, great action stars really do make it look easy, because the level of technical proficiency that's required. It's not like working on a comedy. On a comedy, there's a lot of improvisation, and that includes the camera work too. You know, they can find you. But when it comes to, for example, the moment where Kayla tells Owen for the first time, like, I saw your daughter and, you know, I feel guilty about it. That is, you have to hit it emotionally for me, because that you always. So I had to actually feel that and be honest in that moment. It was a stop on a dime moment, you know, where if I was even a quarter of an inch off of that mark, I wasn't going to be in focus. And then you have to make the just that like it's the degree of choreography that action work requires is dance. It truly is. And I think one of the first things he said to me was fast is slow. There's a lot that when you're watching it, when they cut it, it looks, like, oh my goodness, it was all so fast and so crazy. But if you don't play it out, moment by moment and beat by beat, you're gonna pull a hamstring. You're gonna be injured. So yeah, he was just like fast and slow like that. I call it our bad boys moment because the way that the camera swings around, and we both pulling out the thing at the same time. We worked on that. We were like rehearsing that, just the two of us, to get that choreography, to get that sense of like one body. Both of these are ex-military characters, and I know, because I've talked to plenty of actors who have had plenty of experiences, that the way that Chris Pratt works is atypical. He could just as easily be like waiting in his tent or his trailer. He didn't have to do anything that he did for me on this job. But, he's not only concerned with making sure that he's doing his job, but that everybody looks as cool as humanly possible.
Harrison Martin with Flix Frog. Even with all the returning stars, you pretty much were a standout. My question is about, there's a scene where Kayla is on her plane, her rickety old plane with Owen and Claire, and there is what looks to be a family portrait taped on the yoke. So like when you were cast as this character, did they give you a backstory for how she got to where she was, or were you able to come up with that yourself and like put a little bit of your own life into it?
I've never done a job where anybody has tried to tell me what a character's backstory is. And I always say, I remember meeting with Paul Weiss for Fatherhood, and I was just like, look, you have these conversations about how you like to work, essentially, to see if you're even compatible actor, director combination. And I was like, we're talking about it, and I was like, how do you like to work? And he's like, I love to be surprised. And I said, bet, great. I love to surprise. So much of that process, like Paul didn't see any of my nerdy 30 to 50 page character biography for Fatherhood. He just trusted me. I showed up on the day, and, I got to like play around with Melody Hurd and Kevin Hart. And this one, because of the pandemic, I was in the UK for 2 weeks, just quarantining. And if I don't share my nerdy actor backstory, I still figure it out on the day. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of She's Gotta Have It that I rewrote, a lot of, the kind of like greater kind of character depth and detail that I injected into that series too. And this was no different. It just so happened that those 2 weeks, Colin was asking me questions, which was kind of my like, oh, are we going there? You want to get this work? Okay. So then I shared with him a kind of addended summary version, and then I ended up sharing it with our costume department and our props department and our set decoration, and I did the same thing for Three Women too, this upcoming series for Showtime. So it's just kind of how I work, and it depends on the director, when I start to incorporate stuff. But I've had a lot of grace and a lot of very generous directors who invite me into the process.
Well, thank you. Wonderful. Pray for your continued success. You're great.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Nancy Green with Film Critique. And I just wanted to say also that the movie was great. I thought you were fantastic in it. And I wanted to know if you can go a bit further into your background of how you prepare as an actress. I know you were talking about just your lifestyle in general being healthy. And so I was very curious about more story on your character and whether or not we would see more of that. So if you could go into that a little bit more.
Sure. Yeah, every character in general, I start with a basic kind of biography. I am from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm from Maryland. I grew up, lower class, but I went to school in Howard County, which was immensely affluent. So just developmentally, I know that place matters. I know that upbringing matters. I know that all of that really factors into how you move through the world, how you interact with different people in the world. And for Kayla specifically, a lot of my interest, my focus was on her military background. You know, most of our military personnel are working class. So I knew that she was going to be working class, and I wanted her to be. I come from a strong military family, especially my step family in Maryland. Um, and I wanted her to come from a matriarchal line of military personnel. There's a ton in there. You know, she's an only child. She sends money home. She's like me. She's a happy loner. She's the kind of like person who can go out to dinner and eat a 7-course meal and be perfectly happy and fine. So there's a lot of kind of unexpected research from learning when women in the Air Force were allowed to actually fight and to fly fighter jets, which wasn't until, you know, this movie came out, the first one in 1993. There's a little bit of Baldwin in Kayla because she's an expat. So it's playing around with what it means to be in a foreign land, to want to be home but not feel home at home, which was only exacerbated. We were shooting during the summer of 2020, so I was really thinking about those themes. And, you know, just thinking about what kind of person would be drawn into the drama, essentially, of other people. You know, Kayla doesn't have to involve herself in the story. So those conversations with Colin, just about like, well, why? Like, why? And I remember telling him that there are those of us who will interfere in a domestic violence situation on the streets of New York, and those of us who don't. Like, some people just feel an innate sense of communal and collective responsibility, you know, who are very, if you see something, you say something, and that's who I am as a human being. That's how I operate in every project, every place that I find myself. And that's beyond a shadow of a doubt who Kayla is too.
Nice, nice. Thank you so much. Thank you. And congratulations again.
Thank you.
I really love this movie and I loved your portrayal. It felt like I was watching Indiana Jones. One of the things that I was wondering was, as you stated, this was filmed kind of during the pandemic. And so because of that, were there certain limitations as to what you could do stunt-wise or what they could film? Were there certain scenes that were cut out because of this?
We were supposed to go to Malta. So, you know, the second unit, our stunt unit, actually did get to go. That's why the driving sequence is there. You know, Chris's motorcycle stunt performer was able to do it, but they had to build a number of those set pieces in, you know, at Pinewood in the UK because we weren't actually able to go. So there was a lot of like pivoting and kind of schedule shifting that was required to make that particular component work. Yeah. I probably would have driven a little more of the rickety truck if the rickety truck driving wasn't in the studio. I was like, y'all not about to have me driving into this set. That's not going to be. My whole goal the whole time was like, don't be the headline. Like, that was my whole goal. I was like, don't be the headline. Don't be the one who shuts down production. And don't be the one who's like, DeWanda ruins this $2 million set. No, I'm not doing it.
Hey, it's Rhonda. Earlier, Ray referenced your doll. What goes into creating a doll?
What goes into creating? With me, it involves, you know, I saw the prototypes for Kayla's Lego and dolls when we were filming. You know, that's another saving grace of integration is having collaborators who are like, we do not want to get this wrong. Is this the right complexion? Is this hair gonna make people upset? So a lot of deliberation goes into creating the dolls, and I'm thankful. I'm always thankful whenever anybody asks before they do stuff, because obviously, as you guys have surmised, I have a lot of opinions, but also, you know, I want to make sure that everyone's work is represented well. So yeah, so the dolls, deciding what props make sense, you know, deciding what the hero outfit for Kayla is, if it's, you know, just the green jacket or if it's the leather jacket over the green jacket. There's a lot of thought that goes into creating, you know, both an icon as character and the dolls that will subsequently come from them.
So you love the doll, right?
I love them. She got that ombre, that little Mattel doll. She got the ombre at the bottom. I said, ah! You know, the Legos, everybody's like, oh, the hair. And I'm like, yeah, but you could swap out the hair on a Lego. You know what I mean? That's up for debate. You could just use the brown one, it's fine. But that doll, that's it. You only get one shot.
Well, cool. And I'm waiting for you and Angela Bassett to do a film together.
Where we play witches, obviously.
Okay.
DeWanda, thank you, thank you, thank you. We are so joyful for you in this moment and wish you absolutely nothing but the best.
Thank you.
So on behalf of the world's largest group of Black film critics, this is AAFCA Roundtables. Have a great day.
You too. Always a pleasure. Thank you.